You can now create external tables using a wizard. So there's a node for external tables in the Object Explorer. So if I click on there and do New, I can call the external table whatever I want. It's the same rules as internal tables. For those that haven't used them before, the concept of an external table is that the content is stored in a single operating system file, typically a unload, i.e. delimited file. Particularly it's used for very fast ingestion of bulk data into Informix. So we can say I want a table that's like the structure of an existing conventional table. We have to say where that file is going to be located. So I'm really creating this with all the defaults. UNL is by convention the file extension for a pipe delimited default Informix load-unload file. We can, at this point, change any of the fine-grained, more advanced options. So, for example, you can actually have a binary fixed width row, rarely used obviously. We can have different modes in terms of how that data is ingested as far as transactions are concerned and logging. A lot of this you'd need to look up in the Informix documentation on external tables for more details. Date, money formats, rejection handling in the load. I'll leave it with default. So if I create that table, we've now got an external table. So if I then go back into make a change to that structure, that's what you do if you're going to create an external table that was more or less like an existing table but with then maybe a couple of changes. Just use this wizard to create it like a table, but then go in and edit it and use the specify columns manually to make any changes. There's a new space optimization feature which is most easily got at within tables for a particular database. So firstly, you might want to filter on the objects being shown. It's going to show all tables and indexes. So let's say we just want to see tables. Some of these operations, of course, do apply to indexes as well. We can see here the sizes of tables. The compression feature itself is only available in the Ultimate, aka Enterprise edition of AGS. We do have a number of features available which do apply to all editions of IDS, such as repack, shrink, defragment. Some of these operations could be quite slow and might have implications on transaction logging. Not all. So for example, shrinking, that will happen very, very quickly and just returns any free space from extents already allocated to tables. You can set up a batch to run a set of space optimization tasks, and you can view the progress in that pane. There's a data masking feature for anonymizing data taken from a production environment to go into test environments. You get at this via the Tools menu at the top of the screen. So we can either change data in place, obviously that's destructive, or we can create load files for subsequently loading into your test system. So we're going to use the export to files for this demo. Obviously you might typically use the other if you do a level 0 restore of a test environment and then mask the data afterwards. So doing it into files from stores demo. Let's just do the customer table as the example. So those are the columns of the customer table. The first column is a serial number, so I'm not allowed to mask that. Obviously that might break integrity constraints. Those are the masking methods. So I'm going to shuffle the names. That will just move the value between rows. Same with the surname. The company name, I'm going to do random substitution just with whichever letters. I'm going to do shuffling on the address. City and state I can leave unchanged. Zip code, there's a provided random substitution format code. Obviously you can generate your own. Similarly, there's a random substitution format for a US phone number. Do have quite a lot of control with the output, for example, what the delimiter and the file encoding is. So let's run that. And let's actually see what that's done. Yep, so that's pretty much instantly done something quite useful to anonymize the customer data. In fact, you can now specify the file encoding, or locale as it's more often known, whenever you export data from Server Studio. So for example, in tables, if I do export data just on the customer table to a file, but this time not masking it, if we just quickly go through that wizard, you'll see that we get the file encoding as well. So perhaps most commonly in a Linux environment you might want to write it out in UTF-8